Let's check our levels. Are you high enough?
Yeah, I'm high enough.
You're listening to our podcast, the Slowpoke Travel podcast. We hope you enjoy our podcast. The podcast starts right now. Slowpoke Travel podcast with Buck and Camera Girl. Ta-da!
Thank you for listening to the podcast and watching our videos on our YouTube channel, our cooking channel, and then we've also got a travel channel, so thanks heaps for that. CG and I are giving it a go, making our livings full-time online. So now we have a Patreon account over at patreon.com/buckandcameragirl. You can go over there and throw us the price of a cup of coffee every month, and you can do a monthly price, whatever amount you wish to put in. And we'll also have links to a PayPal tip jar if you want to throw us some support that way. We super duper appreciate it. And you can find links to everything in the podcast description or on our travel website. So if you go to slowpoketravel.com, you'll find links to everything over there. I want to thank all the folks who already are supporting our content. We really appreciate it. And that's it for the plugs. So on to the show. So I'm Buck.
Mountains. I'm Camera Girl.
And this is the Slowpoke Travel podcast. And tonight we're going to talk about making travel plans during a pandemic. Because that's what we're doing. I mean, we've been talking about that for the last couple days, so I thought, well, heck, let's make a podcast episode out of it so folks can see what we're talking about and what we're thinking about, or trying to talk and trying to think about, because it's not normal.
You always want to have flexibility when you're traveling, though. That part is no different. Things can happen, but it is true, and we'll get into it as we start talking about either whether it's Airbnbs or it's house and pet sitting or it's even in hotels. If there's outbreaks or if something happens,
it's not that things can change. It's just that we don't know what to commit to. It's like I was dead set against international travel. I've been saying that ever since this whole thing started, that I have no desire to go anywhere out of the country until things return to a level of normalcy where we feel it's sort of semi-predictable. But now,
Really?
I just don't know when that's going to happen.
See, and I'm trying to send you a subliminal message. I have on a hat that I bought in Mexico.
Oh, so you're saying Mexico, because I've actually been looking at stuff in Mexico for the last few days, and I've been, on my feed in YouTube, I keep seeing all these Mexico videos pop up with people traveling in Mexico, and I'm like, well, what are we waiting for? Things aren't going to be predictable there, but they're not predictable here.
Right. We don't know if the Delta variant or something else is going to, cause an issue. It was funny because I was reading that India was telling folks, hey, why don't you relax some of your restrictions because our cases are going down, and there's that whole economic side of all of it,
definitely.
And just the psychological piece.
Yeah.
But so no, I'm not telling you I'm absolutely ready. There's still the part of me that says, do I want to be in a country where I haven't really learned the language yet? Yeah,
we're nowhere near. We're not going to be anywhere near any time in the near future. So waiting on the language isn't going to happen.
Well, yeah, but it's like I hope I don't make anybody blush, but it's like when we were in Mexico, and one of the decisions for me, one of the thresholds for coming back was they were talking about at some point they might take temperatures at the airport. And I was thinking, so what if I have to explain to some 19, 20-year-old when he takes my temperature and I'm having a hot flash, just give me, un momento, por favor. Yeah. And basically I'll calm down. It's like I don't want to try to explain that in English to a 20-year-old, much less, to
and
someone
forget about
speaking
a hot
another
flash.
language.
I mean, just in general, you're hot, so it's going to be hard for you to get through.
You're getting points, huh?
Custom.
Trying to get some points.
That's
okay,
it.
that's fair. That's fair. But so I'm not telling you no, I'm ready to jump. But in the last few days when I've heard you talk about making plans, I sort of picture an animal in a small cage in a zoo, like you're feeling a little trapped.
Well,
and of course you feel that way in Florida.
I don't know which direction to point myself in.
But we're also sitting in an amazing spot.
This is a fantastic house sit. We are super fortunate.
So we can
to
practice
have this house
mindfulness,
yes,
being in the moment, being in the now. And then there's the part of family. how far away to be if there is an issue. For me, that's another consideration. Not, oh, people don't know how to take care of themselves. Of course they do.
Well, you're just going to have to learn to be selfish like I am.
I don't think it's selfish when you're independent.
We're in a lovely house, but it's going to end, and we need to make some plans for after that. And I'm just having a hard time doing that. I've got a video that sort of shows, my process for making a plan with checking on Airbnb and checking different places.
Yes.
And usually it's a little more straightforward. You sort of look to where your interest lies and kind of point yourself in that direction. But because of travel restrictions and no idea what's around the corner, it's just kind of hard to. We've been in kind of a hole for a while, hunkered down, and now we've kind of come out of our hole, and I don't know where to go. We came out to this house sit, but beyond this house sit, I'm just having trouble making a decision.
So one of the reasons we picked this place is, yes, if there was going to be more cases come up, whatever, we're isolated. We're not in the middle of the city, which we love being in a walkable city, yada, yada, yada. But we just decided, we're just going to be away. Plus the person was not relying on airline tickets and flying somewhere,
They
especially
weren't
to
leaving
another
the country.
Yeah, so there's not enough. Well, even some states may change again their requirements. But
yes,
you're right.
But you can
international
still go
travel.
anywhere in the
exactly.
country, within
Exactly.
the country easily that
If
you
you're in
want
a
to.
vehicle,
Yes.
rather than planes.
Even
or,
flying, you can fly anywhere in the United States.
you
no
can
problem.
right now. You can.
Yeah.
But exactly. So that's one reason we picked this. And when we're thinking about next steps, we do have some friends that I really want to see anyway, and I know you want to see them as well. But so that's sort of nice. It's sort
But
of
that's
we
temporary.
can go see.
That's a short period of time.
Yeah. Yes.
So for our
it
next
depends. It depends.
destination beyond this, we have to decide.
Yes, we do. And so there were a couple of house sits because Buck is on the site all the time. He's looking. And we've talked about a couple that folks that are seasoned travelers, they plan on going out of the country. And we just sort of go, So if we rely on that and then their plans are shut down, then our plans are shut down.
Yeah.
So there's that. But there's the same situation that could happen with an Airbnb. It's not quite as tenuous, but if they have some sort of outbreak in a particular area, like in Mexico, there right now we can't go just anywhere. They're not
In Mexico? Yeah, we can. We can go anywhere in Mexico.
We can go anywhere in Mexico, but if there is an issue again, at a point they say only essential people.
I don't think they ever had that during the whole time of COVID. I think you couldn't drive your car from
Across
the United
the
States to
border.
Mexico.
That's
but
right.
I think there was no time really where you couldn't fly from the United States into Mexico anywhere you wanted. And I know some folks did do that. We watched videos of people doing that.
They did.
And in fact, I think I mentioned this on something else, maybe another video, that this past May, more folks had visited from the United States to Mexico than ever before, because there are so many limited options for people that want to travel. Mexico is one of the few places where you can just go. There are vaccines, at least in the United States, readily available. So people that want to be vaccinated have certainly had the option to be vaccinated. And I think that I just can't imagine that things are going to shut down again to the degree that they were before.
No, I would agree with that, but that doesn't mean we couldn't be in Thailand and there is a partial shutdown.
Well, I don't
I'm just
know what
saying.
it's like in Thailand. We haven't looked into that, and we're certainly not going to Thailand because that would be a big expense, because it might cost us $2,000 or $3,000 to fly over to Thailand.
And then, if we had
And
to come back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we don't want to eat that kind of money. Whereas Mexico, boom, we could be in Mexico next week for $500, both of us.
And it's so diverse and big. There's so many places that we haven't even touched the surface.
And I'm happy
in
to
that
go
country.
back where we have already been. In fact, that's what I've been looking at. And
Oh,
I'm looking
really?
at the Airbnb prices. Because we're thinking, well, do we want to be here in the United States or do we want to go someplace like Mexico? Well, if we stay at an Airbnb here in the United States, we can pay between $2,000 and $3,000, basically to live in, somebody's shed, You know, because Camera Girl and I joke whenever we're driving around or we're going by some place and we see like a shed in somebody's backyard, we jokingly say, hey, I wonder how much that Airbnb is. And it's not really a joke, because a lot of times people will have like small, tiny houses or whatever on their property and rent it out as an Airbnb. And oftentimes they fall into our price range, even monthly rates. Like we were talking about maybe going to Charleston. And the cheapest Airbnb that I could find that was even remotely in our price range was $3,000 a month. After, you know, they tack on all these fees and stuff. And it was for not the greatest place. So we're going to be paying $3,000 for not, you know, a place that we're even excited about. You know, there are problems with it.
That's true. Which is why we have then had some discussions of what if we went somewhere and stayed for 6 months, or we even stayed a year and we rented.
Yeah.
Because that would end up being more cost effective, and it would give us an opportunity, assuming things don't get shut down, even part way, to explore an area. And, you know, it's not like we don't know how to entertain ourselves.
But because we were looking at New Orleans, because New Orleans would be a great place to spend the winter. I love New Orleans. I love the weather there. We could go there. We could get an apartment, someplace where we want it to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, it costs us between $1,000 and $2,000 for rent and utilities. You know, we would have some options in that range in an area we want to be in. That would be hard to replicate with an Airbnb. Although you could, we saw one that was available on Bourbon Street, which would be noisy, but I think it was $1,700 a month. And that was like prime location and included Wi-Fi. We'd still have utilities on there, and it was a month-to-month lease.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
But that, you know, we'd probably only be able to stay there maybe 2 or 3 months. You know, they don't do a yearly lease there, probably because they don't want somebody there that long, because, you know, during Mardi Gras and other times, you know, they could probably rent it out for $5,000 for the month.
Exactly.
But, you know, during the off season, you know, it's kind of affordable. And from there, we wouldn't need a car. Everything would be very accessible. But the thing is, if we're spending that kind of money here in the United States for a place to live, you've also got the expense of just living, going out and doing the things that we like to do. And those costs are so much more here in the United States than what we were used to when we were in Mexico and had to leave. So now when I'm looking at Mexico Airbnb prices, and I know how we can live down there for the costs, it just seems so appealing. So what about it? You want to go to Mexico?
Well, it is true. What was it? The one place was for 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. There was like this gorgeous place.
Yeah, it was like $1,700 or $1,800 on Lake Chapala, and it was like a hacienda.
So yes, there's a lot of appeal to that. Like I said, sometimes I get very humbled when I realize I just haven't taken the time to learn the language. I mean, I do know how to be polite. I do know the manners. I do know
Well, the language isn't a
numbers.
problem in Mexico. We enjoyed practicing Spanish and learning Spanish, and we were able to function, and it was very nice. And if we didn't want to have that worry, we could simply go to Lake Chapala or San Miguel de Allende, where
Lots of expats.
you can't talk Spanish if you want to.
Yeah.
Like we tried
they're like,
Spanish
no.
in Ajijic, and nobody wanted to talk Spanish to us.
Exactly.
Because, you know, all the gringos there, we're all talking English, and the Spanish people are all talking English to us, and they don't want to talk to us in Spanish because our Spanish is so terrible and their English is so great. Why do they want to futz around, you know, with our little child Spanish, you know, when they can, okay, I understand you want to practice Spanish, but what do you want, sir? Because I got other things to do.
Oh,
I didn't feel like
lovely.
the language was a barrier at all. We did everything. We had Google Translate. We definitely put forth the effort, to be able to speak Spanish. And sometimes we did have challenges, but it was fun. You know,
and people were, for the vast majority of times, people were extremely helpful. You're right, it can be a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people that, you know, when they travel, they just take that in stride. I'm still learning to do that. But so yes, Mexico's on the table in terms of us making decisions on where do we go next.
Very much on the table now that I'm
that
I'm starting to figure out the costs for the future, because I'm so cheap. You know, and I think that's one thing in this podcast people are going to realize. People that regularly listen to this podcast are going to realize Buck is a very cheap person. He's always talking about how much things cost.
See, but I think it's because you're practical. I think you're practical.
Well, we couldn't live
Yeah.
the life that we're living right now if we weren't frugal and streamlined and minimalist. I think it makes it possible. I remember reading a travel book, or maybe we were both read
Really?
the book about the some fella was lamenting. He was trying to save up. He spent years and years. His idea was to save up so that he could ride a motorcycle across China. And the guy writing the book was like, that is crazy. That's like one of the cheapest things in the world to do. You don't have to save up for that. Just go and do it. It's going to be cheaper to go and do that than it's going to be to live in the United States and try
Right.
to figure things out. I mean, if you've got $5,000, just go do it. You're going to be fine. You don't have to have this fantastical sum in your head of, I've got to be completely prepared before I go do something. Just scrape together whatever you've got and go do it and figure it out. The key is to be streamlined and to be a minimalist. Now, I remember when I was a young man, the first thing I ever did on my own, the first real decision I ever made was when I was 26 and went to go hike the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I became a man. We'll say. That sounds overly dramatic. But I mean, I'd always been a good kid. I mean, I grew up in a military family. I was yes sir, no sir. I just did what I was told. I graduated high school. When I graduated high school, I had to get a job. I knew that. I got a job as a bag boy working in a grocery store. And then once I got out of high school, I just continued working in the store. I was able to make a living, able to move out. The world was different. You could actually have a job and pay for bills back then in the 1980s.
But not as a bag boy.
Not as a bag boy, but as a stock clerk and
Yeah.
different sorts of things. But I just worked. I went from school to working. And so by the time I was 26, I had already had a job for 9 years. So I was able to hit my midlife crisis in my mid-20s. And that was when I made a decision that I made for the first time. I said, well, no, I'm not going to do this. I'll quit my job and I will go do something. And I decided on the Appalachian Trail. And I quit my job. I got rid of all of my expenses. And I hit the trail, and I think I had about $1,900. It didn't take a fantastical sum. I had $1,900 in my pocket, and I changed my whole life. It didn't cost a lot of money back then to walk and sleep on the ground, and it doesn't now. I mean, last time when you and I went backpacking, I mean, if we got, $1,000 or $1,500
Right.
for both of us for the month, you can live a fantastic lifestyle on the Appalachian Trail because you're only spending money a couple of times a week, and then the rest of the time you're just sleeping in a tent. So it doesn't take a lot of money to travel if you do it right. Here, I know I'm being long-winded, but I'll tell another story because I used to work at a hotel off Canal Street in New Orleans, and I lived in the French Quarter. And everybody thought I was rich because they all said, oh, he lives in the quarters. The rich guy, they all had more money than I did because they all worked 2 jobs. I worked part-time at this hotel. I didn't need money.
Right.
The place I had in the quarter was so small. If you had a couch, you couldn't live there. It was that small. So it was in a great location, but it was not something that anybody with money would pay for.
Plus, but it gave you the freedom so that if they said, hey, we don't need everybody on staff for the next shift,
Yeah.
they thought you were rich because you would volunteer.
Yeah, whenever
and
they
say,
wanted to cut,
I'll
when
go.
they say, hey, it's slow, we're going to cut people, anybody want to go home? Boom, my arm is up. I've gotten enough money to live. All I had to do was make like $70 a day. If I made $70 a day, I was happy. I could pay my rent and I could pay my bar bills. That's all I wanted to do. I'd get on my little red bicycle and I'd go home. Then I would go to Flora's down on Franklin Street, or I'd go to the Abbey.
The Abbey.
Yep. Go to Checkpoint Charlie's, go to the Apple Barrel. Man, I tell you, that is definitely an option for us, is to go back to New Orleans.
Yeah, but your
I would love
metabolism isn't the same. I
No,
don't think
no,
your
no.
bar bills would be as expensive.
No. I can't drink anymore. I mean, every now and then we'll have a drink, and it flummoxes me. It floors me. It discombobulates.
Things old people say.
That's right. But it's something inside has changed. I felt a drop of rain.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. You got your Mexico hat on because you did. So you did. Let me read this comment here. This is from Bobble Rob, who has a podcast called My Mom Has Seen a Movie. Let me read this complete comment. Bobble Rob says, great chat. I would like to do it, but maybe the both of us get too stressed out by uncertainty. The open-endedness would probably freak us out too much. When I plan a big trip, I like to make spreadsheets and organize everything.
Okay, I like that part.
You know, he's talking about house sitting, and because we're at this house sit, which is very open-ended, and we might get a phone call tomorrow saying,
in a week, we need you to go.
Yeah, so
we'll be back.
Which is another reason why we're doing this, discussing about what we're going to do in the future, because we might have a week's notice, and then we have to have some kind of a plan. And it's just hard to make plans right now.
But that's the other great thing, where you're feeling that way, and I'm feeling like if we call our friend on the East Coast, that we're already looking forward to seeing her, we could go there. And we could, if we want to, stay in an Airbnb for a week while we think, you know, and make plans. But we could stay with her, and we might end up taking a trip with her.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a might.
Yeah.
But that's always been in the wings.
Yeah.
But okay, so uncertainty.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for me, I don't feel it quite as
I don't know why I've been feeling it the last couple of days. I guess it's because I've just been thinking about Mexico more. And plus now, once we start looking at Airbnb prices in the United States, I'm like, that's a lot of money for not a lot in return. Whereas in Mexico, we get a lot more bang for our buck.
Oh, for our buck. That'd be cool if they saw a firefly before we finish. Anyway,
Yeah.
All right.
We've got a great view here. We have this podcast over at anchor.fm/Slowpoke Travel Podcast.
But it's also
for
on
the audio. Yeah, but we also are going to be uploading these on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in the video, you can watch it on our YouTube channel.
But if you can't remember any of that, if you go to slowpoketravel.com, on our website, there is a menu choice for our podcast, and you can choose either. We have a link we're going to be linking to just the audio and the audio visual, the YouTube.
Yeah, all kinds of links. That's a good point, because we will have
that way
we will have
easier.
The podcast up on our website with all the links over there, because I'm kind of not too podcast savvy. So the podcast is slowly going out to different platforms, and eventually it will go to more platforms. But right now, some of the links don't work on certain platforms in certain places. But if you go to slowpoketravel.com and look at the links over there, they should all work.
Yeah, you can have just audio, or you can look at us if you want.
Just if you want to see a couple of
careful.
Yeah.
Careful.
A couple of
if you want to have a beautiful
people.
view of nature behind us.
So let's talk about what our different options are, because we talked about Charleston, we talked about Savannah, we talked about New Orleans, we talked about some different locations in Mexico.
We talked about the Northwest. We've talked about Arizona. We've even had some discussions about the Northeast. And for the fall and the fall colors, that could be beautiful. And it might not be as crowded depending on what happens with, in the next few months.
But I noticed that most of the options that we're considering are snow-free.
That is true. You did say you would prefer to be somewhere snow-free in the winter.
Yeah. I've got some...
Yeah, some achy joints.
I got some arthritic type things, and I tell you what, I can feel the weather.
Okay, we got to stop it and return inside. It's coming now. Yeah, they're bigger.
Really?
They're bigger. Yes.
I think it might.
Let's go.
It might work.
Come on. We're going to take a break, and we're going to return inside.
Yeah,
let's go.
Okay, we got to beat the rain.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. You need a van to get that door for you?
Yes, please.
There you go.
Thank you.
I think, oh shoot, I left my cushions. Oh, did you go get the cushions? Oh shoot, they're going to be wet.
I did get the cushions.
Oh, did you?
I just forgot them. They're in the living room.
Well, go get it, because I got a middle-aged man's butt.
All right, here, for your circulation to your brain is
interrupted. So we were talking about where we're going to end up. And I'm thinking United States or Mexico, because we're familiar with Mexico, and it seems like it's open.
And other English-speaking countries we can't go to, even our neighbor Canada.
Canada right now, I think it's too much potential red tape coming and going.
Yeah.
I'd just rather not fool with it. Canada, we had a great house sit one winter in Canada, and a lot of times house sits become available in Canada over the winter, although that might be affected this year. There might be less options. I think we're just not going to consider it, until there's more of a sense of normalcy.
I don't disagree. If we were to visit 10 friends, I'd be thrilled.
Really? You think we have 10 friends?
I do. I do still think we have a lot of options.
But we're not going to stay with our friends. What are you talking about?
No, but we could stay around them. We could have an Airbnb for a month here, or
I don't want to spend money on an Airbnb to be around friends. If I'm going to spend money on an Airbnb, I want to be somewhere fun and exciting.
Well, you can do both. You can find fun and exciting wherever you are.
Okay.
You take it with you, baby.
All right, Ms. Hallmark card. But I was looking here at Airbnbs in Guanajuato. That Airbnb that we stayed at in Guanajuato with the fantastic view, I think we did a house sitting video.
Yes.
I think it was called How We Got Started in House Sitting.
Gosh, you have
Something
a great memory.
Like that.
I don't remember
But we
exactly.
shot that on the balcony there. We could go there. We could stay there for 3 months. And it would cost us about $5,000.
I agree.
For
There's
3 months.
There's some great
so
deals.
That's just a little bit more than $1,500 a month. And that includes all the fees, taxes, services, all that stuff. And we would have the cost of living in Mexico.
Do you not remember living in Seattle? The cost of living is very high there. We enjoyed life there.
Yeah, we did, but we were both working. We both had jobs. We had dual incomes. We were living as inexpensively as you could in Seattle. I mean, we had a great price on a really nice apartment that would be pretty much impossible for us to replicate going back there at this time. We were very fortunate enough to have it at that time. And at that time, we were also making money online, plus we had 2 full-time incomes.
We had 2 part-time incomes.
Well, you say that, but we really worked full-time a lot.
You're saying you like the idea of getting value for your money and staying somewhere.
That is the challenge with our nomadic lifestyle. Because you can live inexpensively with the lifestyle that we have, but it requires some planning, it requires some finesse in order to make it work out. Like right here, we are at this house sit. We've stayed at many multiple month house sits, and it doesn't cost us anything to stay here. We take care of the animals, we take care of the home. And the value of this, I mean, it's just incredible. And it doesn't cost us anything. We're so fortunate. But in order to get here, and in order to transition from here to the next thing, that's where the expense comes in. It comes in with the uncertainty.
Yes.
It comes in with the travel.
Sure.
Because you might have a week where you're kind of in limbo. And during that time, you might be having to pay for flights, hotels, more traditionally expensive travel type things.
Sure.
So you have to make sure and minimize that, which is why we're Slowpoke Travel. Because we like to go slow and we like to enjoy travel, but that is also the most cost-effective way to travel. It's like when we went down to South America and we got that house sit in Chile.
Yes.
It cost us about, for the plane tickets, there and back, we probably spent between $3,000 and $4,000.
Right.
Which is a lot. That is a lot of money to pay for those flights. But that was fine because we thought we wouldn't have that expense for another year. We thought we'd go down there, we'd spend months in Chile, we'd go over and we'd spend some months in Argentina, we'd go over to Uruguay, maybe we'd go to Peru. We'd kind of tour around South America.
Right.
We wouldn't have that big expense of that flight. We did have that expense, but it would be absorbed, spread out over time.
Right.
But as it is, we had our plans got changed, and so we had to come back after 5 weeks. So now we have spent, we had a house sit, which was fantastic. so we didn't have the expense of lodging down there, really.
Right.
So once we got there, it was a very inexpensive trip for us. But when you factor in the cost of the flights and the fact that we were just there for 5 weeks, we did not get the value.
Again, I understand what you're saying about the uncertainty, but we did get our money's worth.
Yeah, for sure. But we didn't get the value that we were hoping to get out of it. We would not have spent that much money to go down there for 5 weeks.
Really?
No. You think so? That would be crazy. Living in Mexico, we could go out every day and eat. We could go out to a coffee shop, enjoy coffee, baked goods. We can go out to a restaurant.
More than we need.
We can go and do whatever we want. And it's not going to cost a lot of money. We can do it every day, and it will be affordable. Whereas here in the United States, man, those costs add up fast for our kind of lifestyle and the budget that we're living in.
But so it will be interesting to see 4 months from now where we are.
For sure, because I have no idea where that's going to be. I was thinking that I wouldn't be really interested in international travel for a while. But now that I have to actually put my money where my mouth is, Mexico seems a lot more appealing. In the U.S., you're paying more for a lot less. Whereas in Mexico, you're paying a lot less for more. So, sitting here now, when I actually have to get down and think about making actual plans.
Are you surprised by that?
And I just really enjoyed our time there. And now the idea of going to live in a basement studio and spending more money
right.
than I was spending before. It doesn't sound very appealing. Although we can have a great time in a basement studio.
Yeah.
It's all about location. I don't mind staying in a little rinky-dink as long as
it's clean.
It doesn't even have to be clean for
yes.
me. I mean, I can get bohemian and hippie-ish, really, if the price is right.
Okay.
But
thanks for sharing. I mean, I don't need it to be spotless, but yeah.
Yeah, I like value because we can always clean something up, or at least I might be the one doing the cleaning to try to make CG happy. But anyway, that's what we're thinking.
Right.
So we don't. So the point of this podcast is that we don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to have to think about something, and maybe it'll end up being a house sit. A house sit would be ideal.
A longer house sit.
Yes, of course. But the thing is, a lot of times you don't know about house sits until
the last minute.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it's hard to make those kind of plans in advance, and especially now, where it seems more tenuous, it would be harder for us to bank on that kind of plan. But anyway, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to rant.
Well, it's not even rant, but you are right. People are at very different places, and I know I enjoy listening to thought processes of other people. Okay, how are you making your decisions and why? And yeah, we are a little more conservative than some of the people who have just already said, yeah, I'm just going to go travel. I'm going to go do things again.
So that's it. This is the conversation we've been having the last couple of days, so we thought we'd throw on the mic so you could listen to it. And I hope we weren't rambling too much.
I would love to read the comments about what other people are thinking. How are they making their decisions? What did we not consider that for other people, hey, this is key? I mean, family and friends, we didn't talk about a lot, but for me, that's always in the back of my mind too.
Leave comments. Leave it on the YouTube channel because that's where we're most likely to see it. Subscribe to this podcast. Try to find it in your favorite podcast player. I'll have links down below. Go to
slowpoketravel.com and there'll be a menu item for podcasts like a couple of days later, and then you can get the audio or the audio and the visual.
Thanks to everyone who is contributing to our Patreon and our PayPal tip jar. So we really appreciate that. So you can support us that way. You can support us by watching and thumbsing up and sharing. We hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we hope that we said something that was of value. We enjoy talking about this here, and I'm interested in hearing this myself to see if I sound cheap and demented.
Well, that part doesn't matter. It's if it piques something in someone else's brain that gets them thinking in a direction. Yeah, that's all.
Well,
they don't have to agree with you, crazy man.
That's it. You don't have to agree with me. But, you know, if you want to be right, why not?
Hey, God.
But that's it from the Slowpoke Travel Podcast. We will see you in the future.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Do we have to keep waving?
Just keep waving.
This is your thing now, huh?
Yeah, it'll be like a slow fade out.
Alrighty, that is it. Click, subscribe, review, share all over the global internet sphere. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time on the Slowpoke Travel Podcast.